God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is the Nathan Napalm channel, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing, especially if you're interested in Pantheon related content on our march to launch. Today I want to talk about factions and how Visionary Realms, the developers of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, have taken something that I already loved, such as building faction reputation and how it affects the rest of the world in games like EverQuest, where you can become kill on sight, so you raise your faction with one, but that faction doesn't get along with the other, and all that kind of thing. And I've talked about it before, but now we have some new information about factions that really is a game changer for the MMO genre, and really going to change the way that we play Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. So before we get into that, a big shout out to the members of Napalm for supporting this channel and what I do. I really appreciate you guys. And if you would like to become a member of the Napalm, please click the join button down below for more information. Alright guys, before I dive deep and go crazy over how awesome this is, let me play this clip to kind of build the scene from Chris Perkins' Joppa, and we'll go from there.
You know, part of interacting with NPCs is going to be getting to know them, having conversations. Certain NPCs will have various tasks for you to do, which are going to be tied into the faction system largely. Faction, we've talked about faction. I think it's known that faction is going to play an important role in Pantheon. And we really want to drive that deeper than just the hostility or non-hostility of NPCs towards you. So I think we're all aware of the concept that, you know, the higher faction I have with an NPC, I can make them go from attacking me immediately when they see me to, you know, being more neutral towards me, all the way, you know, potentially to being an ally of theirs. And that's a big part of it. But then also, when you think about it, the more faction that you gain with something, it's not always a good idea to do real life one-to-ones, but in this case, the better you get to know someone, you know, the more you spend time helping them with various things, the more likely they're going to open up to you a little bit. And we find that really intriguing, the idea that, you know, maybe there's a locked house, a locked home in Demeth Village in Avendir's Pass that just, you know, locked doors are intriguing. And perhaps you find out down the road that the way you actually gain access to that house is by befriending an individual in Demeth, that through doing these various tasks and whatnot to increase the faction with that individual, that you might even be invited into their home, or you know, kind of see some more in-depth on like an individual basis with NPCs, not just, you know, my faction with Thronefast, or my faction with the Thronefast militia, things like that.
So this makes it seem like that, yes, there will be faction obviously with like city-states or with certain races in the game and things like that, but also some individual faction. In other words, you do a lot of tasks or quests for a certain individual, probably means you're interested in that person or their culture or something to do with them, or maybe you're doing it because you know this system exists this way and that they have the key to that specific place, or they know more knowledge about this specific dungeon, or what have you, due to dialogue, and therefore you dive in deeper and do a bunch of tasks for them in hopes that you maybe get access, special kind of permission, or maybe even unlocking more perception quests in a specific place, because you got to figure with the way that he just spoke about that and the way that we know perception works. And if you don't, I have plenty of videos on my channel, just check my Pantheon Rise of the Fallen playlist about perception, but we know how that basically works. So if you were to get access to a new area, a house as he mentioned, or whatever the case may be, it could even be a specific section of the dungeon, you know, where it's behind a lock and you've looked for the drop and you've killed all kinds of mobs. You're like, where do I get this drop to get in this secret little area of the dungeon? And perhaps it's through tasks with a specific NPC who talks about that dungeon, that they've been there a lot, or maybe it's an old man who used to explore there all the time and now he's just a little too old to do so, or something of that nature. So then you go and you find out that he has access, and that's the way you get the key. So there's so much they can do with this. Now, I would like to point out that just for the sake of development time, hopefully every single NPC in the game doesn't have a system like that. I doubt it, because I would assume it would only be to specific quest givers, specific people that they decide to implement that feature on. But I absolutely love it, and hopefully, and I believe there will be some kind of UI element that kind of tells you that you gained extra faction with that particular person. Pretty sure that will be in there somewhere. But I really thought this was a really cool idea. I really like the idea behind it. I've always been a big fan, because you got to figure, in an MMO, to me, it's not just about the progression of my level or my skills in the MMO. That's important, and I love it, and of course that's a very addicting part, and of course gearing up and, you know, seeing different stats and getting procs and all that thing are really cool. But there is a horizontal kind of progression that I always like, such as, you know, faction reputation. Now we can add in NPC faction, right? And that's really cool. That adds a whole, even additional horizontal layer. You can see that Pantheon is very horizontally built. So we have perception, where you can be a keeper and you can level, you know, or advance that so that you can see more and learn more about the lore and about the story. Also, you've got your typical leveling up system, but now in addition to that, we knew we had faction, but not just with militias and city-states and things like that, but also faction with individual NPCs. So if you find something interesting about the NPC and you want to delve further, or you think there's something there, right? You're reading the dialogue and you're like, there's something more to this person. I'm gonna start doing everything I can for this person and see if I can't get in their good favor, so I can learn more about this dungeon or about this place, or try to get access to this or that, or maybe even down to the point of a merchant who will cut you a better deal on his services. So there's so many things they could do with this, and I don't know about you guys, but this has me super hyped. This is something that it feels right. You know what I mean? It goes along with the way they've kind of been developing Pantheon and building this world, because that's one thing I have to say. There's a lot of cool MMOs on the horizon, right? I think Ashes of Creation looks pretty cool, pretty hyped for it. I think they got a lot of good ideas, but I do have to say that for world building, for actually building a deep to dive in lore and just the world feeling like a real place, and just being completely addicted to learning more about this world and wanting to be in it. I think Pantheon has that on complete lockdown. They're building a world here. They're not just building an MMO with a bunch of features, and I'm not knocking a game like Ashes, but that's a game where it's just like, oh, you can do all these features, right? And the features are all dealing with trying to keep you entertained, and that's fine, and that's cool, and that makes sense that people would move in that direction. But Visionary Realms is moving more in a, let's make this the deepest, most role-playing adventure we possibly can, while still maintaining socialization in the game. So anyway, kind of went on a little bit of a rant there, but I hope you understand what I mean, that this is just another little nugget, another peeling away the onion skin to see there's more and more layers, and that this is going to be a long-term investment. This is going to be something that the more you put into it, the more you get out of it, and not just from leveling up or getting new abilities, which there's plenty of that too, but horizontal progression, taking MMOs to the next level, which is what they promised from the very beginning. Is they wanted this to have the spirit of an old school game that we all crave and love, but also take it to the next level. And you can see that even with something as simple as faction reputation, which, let's be honest, we would have probably, I know I would have been completely okay with the typical faction situation, because we don't have a lot of games like that, like EverQuest did it, where you can actually become kill on sight in certain cities, etc. And I was already, that's good enough for me, but now taking it to the next level of applying that to certain NPCs, I think is a grand idea, and really going to be something I'm looking forward to trying out. It looks like in the upcoming Pre-Alpha 5 that we'll get to do a little bit of that, or at least sample it just a bit on some NPCs, it sounds like, because it was mentioned while they were talking about Pre-Alpha 5 and the features that were going to be in it and that kind of thing. But what do you guys think in the comments down below? Is there any other things you think they could tie into this besides the fact of like getting to new areas or getting a certain item or, you know, unlocking that secretive place or what have you, as on top of like merchant discounts and things like that? What are some other ideas you think they could tie into this system that you can kind of foresee with the kind of development pattern that they have so far? And of course, guys, if you're not already subscribed, please consider doing that. We're getting close at the time of this recording to 8,000 subscribers. We've been gaining almost 1,000 a month. Thank you so much. Incredible. But I'd like to see it continue to grow, of course, because more people we bring into our fold, the more people are going to learn about Pantheon Rise of Fallen and join us in that beautiful world. And big shout out to the members of Napalm who keep my lights on, keep this puppy going. Really appreciate you guys a ton. And if you're interested and you're a super fan of the Nathan Napalm, please consider clicking the join button down below and looking at the options, perks, and details for my membership program. And of course, guys, until next time, God bless and happy gaming.
Please listen to what I say. I've been making videos all day. My friends all say I'm it's a video buffet. You can even hit replay. But please just subscribe. I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize. But just please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.